And I'm going to, let's see, I think we'll appoint Stan to also serve as a voting member for this meeting. Let's see, if everybody could mute themselves. Let's see, if you haven't already, except for the commission members, then just, looks like that's good. So we're good to go. First order of business for us is the public hearing. And the rules for the public hearing are, well, actually, I'm going to back up. The rules for this Zoom meeting that I forgot to say that we have to follow is that if you are speaking, you need to identify yourself. And I didn't even do that. I'm Gail Usher. I'm the chair of the Historic District Commission. So when you wish to speak, raise your hand. There should be I believe it's in the no, not in the participants. Physically raise your hand, or you can speak if there's a lull and ask, because I don't see a hand raise feature. Maybe I do. No, I'm not finding a hand raise. Oh, yes. If you click on the participants, if you have a regular laptop, there will be a hand raise feature shown at the bottom of the list, a little blue hand. If you click on that, a hand pops up and lets me know that you'd like to speak, and then I'll be able to call on you. And then when you do speak, just identify yourself. Initially, it's helpful to provide your address, but you don't necessarily have to do that. I think and so thereafter, every time, if there's been a lull between the time you've spoken once and then speak again, it would be helpful to just remind everybody who you are when you do speak, if you do speak again. I think that should take care of the general rules of order. This Zoom session is going to be recorded. So yet again, we are all on this for posterity. Just keep that in mind. Now, rules for the public hearing, we will call it to order. We'll read the legal notice. One person speaks at a time. And again, state your name and address if you would like to do that when you speak. And then the applicant will provide a description and provide any information about their application. The commissioners will ask questions, so that's an open exchange between the applicants, so between the Youngs and the commissioners. We'll call for supporting comments for the application from the public. We will ask questions. We have the opportunity then, commission members, to ask questions of those who make comments. Then the next will be a chance for those in opposition for the application to make comments. And again, we will question those in opposition if we have questions. And then the applicant gets a chance to speak and address any of the either concerns or support that's been raised. Any opposition, anyone in opposition to the application can comment again. And then the commission members will make a determination on whether or not it's time to close the public hearing or continue it if we need it to be kept open. And then once we close the public hearing, and then it's just the commission members who will be speaking to each other to reach our determination. So, all right, get rid of this, go to this. I'm going to call the public hearing to order. And this is a public hearing for 494 Route 169 in Woodstock, Connecticut, for demolition of the house at that location. And Doug and whoever else is there to speak, who is going to might speak with you. This is at this point now, it's a chance for you to, this is where we'd like you to provide us with information about what you're proposing.
All right, so my name is Eric Young. I'm one of the three partners here right now. I have my mother, Donna, and my father, Douglas, with me. And as you guys are probably already aware, we've put a lot of money into the two buildings to the rear of the house. One most recently being the big barn project, where we've put a lot of money into it, renovating it, getting it back up to working order. Now our next step is trying to show off some of that nice features that we've brought back to light, and kind of have gotten a lot of good feedback through people passing by of what a beautiful barn. And we kind of are leaning towards now that we'd like to showcase that, being such a good historic value of our town. And we all know the agriculture plays a huge role in this town. It always has, specifically apples. I know if you guys are in this committee, you know the history of the town, and where we all started. And quite frankly, the house has kind of been neglected, and it's becoming an issue. We've had multiple bricks fall down while customers and patrons are in the parking lot. It's starting to get to the point where we feel that it would do the district a better present.
Justice.
Yeah, I can't think of the right word, but it would present a better scenic road if it were the showcase of the barn and the apple barn in the rear. And I know I did do a little bit of digging beforehand, that the property is part of the National Historic Registry that was submitted in '98. And in the '98 submission, it listed agricultural use as part of the history, and specifically it referenced the apple barn. I kind of thought that was interesting that it only referenced that and not the house at that time. But I, just digging into this a lot more than I ever thought I would. Do you guys have something else?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I would hope that it would add value by having that house down. The house is not in good shape. And as Eric said, it's not safe, nor is it safe to do anything right in the middle of that area as well, for obvious reasons.
Okay. You sent a letter, came with your application, and it said that your plan would be to demolish the building and remove all the debris. Does that include the foundation as well?
So yeah, the plan would be to remove everything to prevent any sort of safety hazard, any sort of sinkholes. Our plan, if we were to be granted, would be to return that to a grass lot, not changing any asphalt, not changing, any outbuildings or anything. We would just simply remove it if granted, from that spot. And I don't know if you talked to my father or not, but we're kind of just open to, if somebody wanted to buy it off of us. We haven't found somebody who wants to buy something of that degraded value or degraded condition. But we weren't shooting it down per se.
Okay. Before I speak, commission members, do you have any questions you'd like to ask to start with?
No questions on my part.
Okay. So the house in question is, and just to set it specifically, it's the George P. Purley house. Its approximate construction date is 1908. It is listed in the our historic district register as let's see, an unadorned four-square house with a hip roof of low pitch, newly covered yellow vinyl with yellow vinyl siding. That was in 1991. Is the only example of a four-square style in the Hill Village. And again, mentioning the house and orchards as a clear instance of commercial use in harmony with residential life. And as you mentioned, Doug, we are a national historic district beyond just being a state historic district. And that means, and in the listing for National Register status, that house was listed. So it's, as was every property within the district. So that automatically elevates it into the National Register tier, which automatically triggers a long series of protocols that need to be followed on our part to make sure that we are complying with all of the requirements that are placed on the Historic District Commission, answerable at the federal level, because this is a house within a national historic district. And so it's not going to be an easy and quick process to get to the point of a final determination. I just want to sort of front load that so that you understand that right away. Our role in the historic district is to protect the character defining features. We're responsible for protecting the historic district, which is why we have to answer to these now imposed protocols. And then we're also going to put a string of responsibilities on you. Basically, what we're going to be doing is asking you to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the only option for this house is demolition. So what we'll be needing from you are the clearly defined, articulated, written in writing reasons that you want to demolish the house and why that's the only answer. It's going to have to be presented to us in a formal proposal. We'll need to know why leaving the building there is not an option for you. And it can't be vague. You can't say it would be too expensive. You're going to have to say, for us to bring the property up to code and use it say for offices would cost X thousands of dollars, and then clearly state that that would not be funds that you have. And you're going to have to look at all of the different options there might be for retaining this house. Our goal is to keep this house in sight. Your goal is to convince us that that's not the best option for you. So you're going to have to look for alternative uses that keep the house in its location. And then from your perspective, you're going to need to very definitively detail why any of those options aren't viable, are not going to work. The very last of the options just before demolition is selling it. And the good news to all this, and I've been in touch with the Connecticut Preservation Circuit Riders, and we've discussed this. The good news is that potentially there's a little bit of money, or at least some assistance, that over this process that you can tap into to help you look for think of alternatives. And once you submit a new application and get going on this process, then we can connect you with the people that you need to talk to see if you can get some consultations that will help walk you through the process as well. So we need detail. Everything's got to be based on fact figures, precise numbers or good numbers that are backed up. So if, for example, you're saying it's going to cost approximately $40,000 to refurb the first floor so it's usable again, then we've got to know that, or if you were going to think about renting it, because, obviously one has to think of, you could rent it. You could, someone would say, well, you can't sell that little piece, but you could rent it. But maybe renting, there's not the codes. It won't be allowable under the regulations of the town to be able to rent it. Can you use it as an office space? Is there some other purpose for which it can be used in conjunction with your business? We've got to figure out what that's going to cost to do that. And then you've got to say, no, you can't. Because, and you've got to give us facts about why you can't. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to a degree. I mean, obviously you see one side and I see what you guys have to do in your job.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also see that, we have ample office space. Just for instance, we could get it, start renting it out, but would that be another thing that we have to reapply to turn it into another business? You know what I mean?
So this is all part of the process that over the next 60 days or so, you will be going through to try and, I said, we can probably get someone to work with you to come up with alternatives that are reasonable alternatives based on the planning and zoning within the town, and what's reasonable for that property. And then it's up to you because we know what your goal is. It's up to you to prove that those options aren't going to work for you. And the reason we're going through all this is because every property that's in the historic district has a place and is a contributing factor to the entire, contributes to the essence of the entire district. And because it's now in national register status, as I said, we have a responsibility to go through make sure when we come to our final decision, we have gone through all the steps. Because if we didn't, and somebody objected to our decision, then we're in difficulty as well as you're in difficulty, and so we're protecting us and the work we do, but we're also protecting you, because taking down a house in a historic district is a big thing. So we want to make sure that both of us are doing our due diligence and we arrive at the decision that is right for the district and hopefully you're satisfied with as well.
So now, I'm trying to clarify things. You said when I reapply, I would have to get these things. Now, is there a time frame on the reapplication? So do I want to start getting this stuff before I apply?
No.
Or
No, so the way this would work is because basically we don't have the information we need tonight to be able to make a determination that will satisfy the upper powers that be. So we will do, but because of the time frame from when you first put in your application, because between holidays and COVID, we haven't had this meeting. So we will deny this first application without prejudice, which means you can reapply right away. Right? You could put in another application and start working on this. And if in 30 or 60 days, if next month or the month after that, all the materials together and to everybody's satisfaction, we can make a decision. We can make a decision. If it's not all together and we don't feel that we've got enough that we can make a decision, we'll deny again without prejudice, and you just make another application. There's no fee for the application. We're just moving it along at a pace so that you satisfy all the requirements, we satisfy all the requirements, and then the entire commission is able to make an informed decision. Okay. And then the other piece of the timing is that there is the potential that if we approve the demolition and you apply to the building official for a permit to demolish, there may be, I don't know what the town regulations are about this, but oftentimes the building official imposes a mandatory 90-day stay of demolition. So that's why I said, it's not something that's going to be, it's not going to be 30 days it's going to take a few months. Probably is frustrating for you to hear, but we've got to check all the boxes because this is a big decision to make. And it's going to weigh heavily on all of us to make the right decision. Commission members, any questions while we are still in the open, at this point, while we're still in the open part of the public hearing?
Seems pretty well covered as far as I can see.
All right. Tim, were you saying something?
Tim Monahan. Yeah, I was wondering if the applicant has thought about kind of restoring that building to perhaps its condition maybe 50 years ago. I think it was modified in the early 90s, and today it is somewhat of an eyesore. But look at bringing it back to its former beauty, almost like the barn has been brought back, and maybe, it could be something that stands out and sits proudly on the property. I agree, it's not like that right now, but I'm not sure it needs to be condemned.
Doug, have you given any thought to, Eric, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I was reading the label.
So yeah, you referenced the money we put into the barn. Well, we're at almost $500,000 on that project. And I don't know many in-town businesses that can really foot multiple renovations at once. So we're kind of locked in for the next 30 years or so. We kind of put a lot of eggs in one basket. As far as how it looked 50 years ago, I know there's a couple people that may even be in this meeting that know of some previous notes of we better fix the house up, damages was threatened to the house. So 50 years ago, there was still people thinking the house was less than ideal for that location. I agree, but I still pull in every day and see vinyl siding and kind of,
Right.
it sticks out.
That's part of what has made it an eyesore, is the vinyl siding and kind of how they changed it maybe 30 years ago. But I wonder what it looked like before. I haven't seen photographs.
There's photographs floating around. It's a Sears and Roebuck house. So if you just do a Google search of 1908 Sears and Roebuck house, you pretty much get the house
Right.
photo for photo.
Eric, when was it last lived in?
I would estimate 15 years ago, 12 years ago.
Near 20.
20.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Time goes.
Was
And-
it originally a residence for the operation of the orchard, or what was the purpose of it being there?
So as far as I know, it was a home for Dr. George
George
Pearly.
And then he
Um,
sold it to the.
who
Woodward.
actually, I believe the property to our right, if you're facing from 169, was also Pearly Residence at one point, which that house is actually older. Pearly was part of, he was an apple grower. He was part of the commission at one point. So the house was more so, I guess they were pretty well in tune from what I can gather. I like I said, I've only been digging into this for, I submitted it in November, so I have only gotten so far with farm renovations as well. I certainly am looking for more information because now I'm intrigued.
It has, Eric, so you and your family know, as part of my discussion with the circuit riders, they indicated that there's the potential for, if you're exploring rehabilitating it, there is the potential for funding for that, to assist with that. Like, no guarantees, but the potential for it from a variety of sources. And certainly the commission would support any applications you made to those entities for funding to fix the house. Tim, additional questions?
No,
Harold?
No,
Right. So at this point, we will call for some support, any supporting comments from the public.
I think Dan is muted.
Daniel. Dan, did you have?
Yeah, thank you, Gail. Yes. I want to kind of qualify my comments first, I want to understand the whole process, but I do want to make some general favorable comments. But in terms of the process, if I'm understanding correctly, what's going to happen tonight is you'll probably close this hearing because you'll probably deny this application as it currently stands. And then there'll be a second application, at which point there'll be a new hearing. Is that okay? All right. So just a couple of general observations I would like to make. First of all, I have been really impressed by the barn, the new barn. I think that I'm not sure who came up with that design, but I've just been really impressed by that barn. I'm intrigued by the point that Eric made about the greater visibility of the new barn and of the apple barn. The increased visibility of that from the roadway. That to me is kind of intriguing to picture that. I also would comment on what outstanding neighbors Woodstock Orchard has been to the neighborhood, to the historic district through the years. Oh, by the way, my name is Dan Atwood. My wife Mary and I live at 493 Route 169, which is directly across the street from the orchard. And we also own 479 Route 169, which is kind of diagonally across from the orchard. The Bishop and Young families have been wonderful neighbors in all the approximately 30 years that we have lived here. Been very welcoming. And I think that they have, as they have undertaken projects, they've done so sensitively taking into consideration the historic district. They also volunteer in a myriad of ways in support of agriculture and in general in support of our community. The fire department, historic district, the Woodstock Agricultural Society, et cetera. So, you know, I have a kind of a predisposition to hope that something can go forward here that'll work well for their family and business and for the historic district as well. And I feel that it's reasonable to expect that it will play out that way. I think probably the other follow-up question that I would have is, what is it going to look like when all is said and done? If in fact demolition is the option that is ultimately chosen and approved, are we talking simply about a beautiful green grass space where the house used to be? If so, you know, that could look pretty nice, I think. I do think it's important to keep a lot of natural beauty in there, kind of offsetting the current asphalt as it's currently designed. But I think I could envision something that could work very well. I certainly understand and concur that it makes sense to explore other options with regard to the home. That being said, I think if one were to look at the Woodstock Hill neighborhood, one could argue that it is one of the least historically significant buildings. That doesn't mean it's not important and significant, but it is less so than, in my view, than the large majority of homes on Woodstock Hill. So I guess to be continued, but as a general impression, I'm hopeful that this can work out.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
And I guess, let's see, in the vein of not necessarily looking for favorable comments, but just non-negative comments, any comments or questions that are public comments regarding this project? Yes, Kurt.
Gail, hi, everybody. Kurt McNally. I noticed that Marilyn Chambers is not here. Marilyn, I'm sorry. Pomeroy is not here, but she had mentioned to me when she, you know, made us aware of this meeting just earlier this week, that the house was a Sears and Roebuck house. Is there something to that? I'm curious. Was it a mail order house at one time or no?
That's it. Eric had just said that it was a Sears and Roebuck kit house.
Oh,
So
From what I've gathered and what everybody has told me, it does appear to be so. I haven't tore any beams out. I read a bunch of stuff on Telltales. It has a bunch of the indications, but most of it says if you start pulling some molding off, it should have some labels on the backside. I don't really feel like tearing apart the house that I'm asking to knock down, because then that kind of makes me look bad. So
Yeah, I was just out of curiosity more than anything, you know, but no, I would agree with Dan that what you've done with the barn it looks beautiful, and, you know, I certainly, you know, would like to see you guys succeed.
thank you, Kurt.
Kurt,
Any,
Hey, Gail, I clicked on the blue button for the hand, but I'm not sure if it's popping up.
it's not popping up. So everybody, so obviously the hand isn't operating. So please flap if you need me, if you're trying to get my attention. I'm sorry about the need to do that. Yes, Pat.
Yeah, I had a few things, couple questions.
Just identify yourself and your location.
I'm sorry, my name is Patrick Muley. I own the property at 42 Child Hill Road on the other side of the district. I had a few comments and first a couple of questions. If the Youngs have to reapply, possibly multiple times if they don't have all the info at once, are there any negatives to having to reapply
No.
And, okay, I just,
There are none. And by denying without prejudice means that it's basically, you're not accumulating some denial tick marks. You know, you're not accruing denials along the way. It's every application is basically a restart. You know, it has nothing, just because it was denied, this is a timing, and we will state in the denial that it was because the information wasn't available. That's all. So
I had a quick question for Eric. Obviously you'll have to go into detail with the resubmission and everything, but can you mention like a couple of the big issues with the house? I know you had told me at one point of like the sills around the entire house were horrible. You could put your finger almost through them. I was just curious of any other brief synopsis of info of issues with the house.
Yeah, so we used it a while back for a fire department exercise. And at that point, we noticed that the chimney was in very poor condition. About 6 months later, we started having customers bringing bricks to us at the front counter that were falling down from the outside. That was one. In the basement right now, you can pretty much go all the way around and shovel snow from the inside. Snow was actually blowing in from the base of the house where it meets the stone foundation coming in. I don't believe all the knob and tube wiring has been removed from the house at this time. We have a roof that's got a pretty bad leak that's caused plaster to start falling from the ceiling. We have a pretty bad septic issue that we just discovered. That's not really the highlight of my week right now. But yeah, the list just goes on and on and on. And like I said, it's a house that we have no purpose for right now. We've got nobody that's lived in it since I was in middle school. It's been a real long time. And you guys know what happens when a house isn't lived in. It falls apart faster than if you were to have 4 kids running around in it. It's just incredible.
So just to interject for a second, Pat, so we don't get too far along. So Eric, the details, just start compiling a list. All right, sitting around drinking coffee with parents on an evening, you know, when it's snowing, make a list of all the things that are wrong with the house, all the things that are going to would require repair if someone was going to live in it or use it. So you just listed a lot, knob and tube. Obviously the sills have a serious problem. You've got plaster down, roof leaks. Just compile a list and then ballpark. And I'm sure you've got there's people also, you've got friends that can kind of help you with ballpark estimates of what the costs would be to address those. And if you've got somebody in the building trade, that can just give you ballparks on those, then what you're doing is you're creating a database then bringing that information to us so that we understand what it is that you're facing and what has brought you to the decision that we need all the data that supports the decision that you want us to reach. And I know it's a lot of work, but it's going to save, if we ultimately approve your application, down the road, it will save all of us grief should people question the legitimacy of the decision.
It
Okay.
sounds like that just those few things that you just listed, Eric, that alone, and I'm sure there's more, is really expensive already. And I'm sure you'll compile all that. And I want to bring some things up now. A lot of people already talked about the aesthetic value of if that house is taken down. And I want to bring up that recently we had a hearing about parking space on another property in the district. that one of the big issues with it was aesthetic value. I think that if this house is gone, not only, Eric and his family will go through the process of, showing why they need to take it down. But I'm looking at the benefits of it on the other side of it. And the aesthetic thing is a big piece of it. Eric's talking about just having it as a grass lot right there. He's not looking at putting in any additional parking or asphalt. You'll have a great view of the orchard, of the redone barn, which I believe is, correct me if I'm wrong, is the barn the oldest structure on the property?
So we're chasing things now, because as we rebuilt this barn, we've found multiple layers to this barn of it was once 2-story, it was once single stall, it was once single story. There's a lot of barn additions that I've put on that thing. And we're finding a lot of gunstock construction on the original beams, which indicates it might very well predate it. I can't tell you for sure if it does or not right now. But I would argue that a gunstock constructed barn is of a lot more value historically than a Sears and Roebuck house, even though Sears is struggling right now and might be history pretty soon.
One of the things that you talked about, safety, about like bricks falling and people being in the parking lot, with that being possibly being turned into a grass lot down the road, as everybody knows of being been to the orchard or driving by it, is that you see the mums and the pumpkins out in the parking lot or in the driveway there. Having those on a grass lot is a safety thing. What else? Another thing that I've talked to Eric about is that the possibility that when this house is taken down, is it actually being used for drills for the fire department, something that you can't do on a house that's just having some mild construction done. It has to be on something that's demolished. And the value of that is exponential. And Gail, you had mentioned that one of the responsibilities of the district is to protect the district, and having a large training opportunity for the fire department, of which I'm a member, of the fire department that protects our district, is invaluable. I've been a part in my hometown of many live burns, and it's hard to get one that you can actually use for such, for whether it's a live burn or just running other drills. And you never find one where the owner are members of the fire department, but it's chief and know the house and know what we can do with it. I just think that's a really big value for the people that, are protecting this district. Yeah.
Thank you, Pat. Anybody else wish to make a comment? Jean, you need to unmute yourself.
Done. Okay. Jean McClellan, 582 Route 169. I'd more or less like to echo what Dan Atwood has said about the place of Woodstock Orchards in the neighborhood, and the value we all put on agriculture in the community. And I think the Bishops and Youngs have done a great job of retailing so that they could keep agricultural viable in Woodstock. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the sense that the front of the property will not be blacktopped. I do wonder, I have questions. I understand there will be a cafe put into the new barn, which you've done a beautiful job with, and I can't wait to see the cupola go up. But how much extra parking do you anticipate? And how will all that parking fit? Will you be doing some parking around at the back for berry picking and apple picking? I think as things proceed, and I understand that there is a real issue about demolition of properties that are listed on the National Register and that are part of the historic district. And I understand that the Four Square is, the only one of its type. So there are arguments. But I hear Eric saying there is an awful lot that is not good about the house at the moment too. So all of that will come out. But I think as things go forward, I will be interested to know what kind of parking is anticipated and what kind of solution there will be so that it's least visible from a roadway.
So a lot of those things I echo too. I don't want to see cars parked in the parking lot. You know what it's like. You go to the grocery store, the longest line is not the one you're going to jump in. So why would you go to a store that's loaded with cars? I too want to see the barn. I want to see the pumpkins. I want to see the mums. I want people to come to Woodstock and enjoy the rural, not be in a parking lot buying a pumpkin off some asphalt. Our plan was with that barn, that second story has given us a lot more storage. We're going to be able to eliminate some old trucks that are actually dead out back that we use for storage. And we'll gain some parking out back behind the two buildings and feed that whole front portion where the house is, if we are allowed to demolish it, just have grass, because we want it to look rural as well. We don't want it to appear to be this, Walmart supercenter. We don't want that. That's not good for us. It's not good for the town.
Yeah. That's exciting, Eric. So.
Anything else? Anything? That's it, Jean. So Eric, just to clarify, what you're saying is that if permission was given, then the footprint will be filled, it'll be grassed over. And during the height of peach, blueberry, apple picking times, that area will not be used for front of house parking?
So without actually being out there to police our parking, we've kind of gotten to know that people who come to there don't typically park with all of their 2 cents being used. So it's really hard to prevent some of the parking. I'm sure some of you guys have driven by and somebody's parked in the middle of the road, a FedEx truck looking to unload in the middle of the road. We try our hardest to get cars to go up on the hill if they're picking, so they don't have to walk with it. We are going to try to encourage some parking in the rear behind the building on a lot of what previously was pick your own pumpkins. We are going to plant grass. That's what we would like to do with that portion. To say that people aren't going to park there on their own, I don't know if I can.
But
But
you're not going to, your plans are not to, your plans are not to say that you're looking at that to pick up the extra parking of your increased business?
No, I don't see that as a goal, as that part gaining me parking spots. That's not a win to me.
Now, if let's say if people will, because I've driven by, everybody's driven past, and you're right, cars are everywhere when they want to get to those blueberry bushes or to those apples. So, and justifiably so, but they are everywhere. If it's grass and grass gets churned up, so it becomes a maintenance issue, maybe potentially it's a maintenance issue for you. We would be worried about the potential for that, for you looking for some other surface than grass. If there,
So yeah, I understand that aspect, but I'm sure Harold can chime in too. The people have been parking on the front lawn since 68 possibly. I wasn't around, so I can't tell you totally. But as long as I can remember, they parked on the lawn and the grass is still there. We try to maintain it as much as we can. Obviously, we've had really odd weathers lately, so the ground is all out of sorts, just like our trees. So we do have some maintenance we try to upkeep, but like I said, we're trying to keep it rural. We're not looking for, you know, concrete or asphalt or gravel. We don't want dust. We don't want to, we do like the grass appeal.
Because it is, and I probably, so that it, you've got it in the back of your mind that if it was approved, it would probably be approved with stipulations that would prevent any kind of solid surface being put in that space. So, and
If I may, what's important to us is the value of that beautiful spot and the beautiful hill. That attributes so much to the value of our business. We would never want to do anything to take away from that, because if anyone appreciates the beauty of that apple barn, the hill, we're right on top of the list. We do not want to do anything to jeopardize and, you know, start tearing things apart and making the value of the whole hill go down. That's not what we're about. That's why we've invested so much money, is because we value the history of that barn and the apple barn. That's so on our forefront.
and we really appreciate that. And it's evident in the outstanding work you've done on the barn. You know, that's a stellar project. It's really has come out well, and you're to be complimented for just how well that has gone.
Good.
Let's see, Jock, I think you had your hand up first.
Well, first, I agree with almost everything that's been said. Life is always trade-offs. I can see the arguments for preserving a Sears and Roebuck house. And I think it's good to follow the procedures that are needed very carefully. And Gail, I think you need to be commended for paying careful attention to those things. The purpose of the historic district more broadly than buildings is to somehow preserve the character of the town. And it seems to me that there are very few things in town that contribute more to the character of this town than the Youngs and Bishop's business. I think it's wonderful. I think it's in keeping with the spirit of what an historic district is about. As Eric has described it, it seems to me it can be done in a way that could be quite beautiful. And in the trade-offs in life, I think I'm in support of what they're trying to do.
Thank you, Jock.
Mhm.
Pat, did I see your, Pat, did I
Yeah,
see?
I just wanted to say from the information that Eric was just saying that, and that Harold can probably attest to, that the grass in front of the house has been parked on since the 60s and it's still grass. So I completely believe that they're going to absolutely try to keep it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom
Yeah.
Chase, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think that it's the aesthetic value of actually removing that house so that you have a decent view of the orchard as you're driving by it's very large, and I hope that Eric will put that into the next application. I think it struck me ever since we moved in that house is sort of not quite where it should. There shouldn't be anything there, and I think that he's going in the right direction. So I hope that the next application will succeed.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else have neutral or positive comments at this point? Commission members, do you have any questions for anybody who's commented so far?
I do not.
Not at this
Everything's been
point.
well covered.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
wanted to
Ken.
ask Kurt, he had talked to Marilyn and what her take was.
Well, I would say that she didn't say 100%, but she is very fearful of change, as I think we all are, and, she wants us to, proceed cautiously. And, I was intrigued by the C as in Roebuck thing, but that may be there's thousands of them out there and it doesn't matter. I don't know, but yeah.
So thank you for expressing some of Marilyn's concerns. I hope that's part of the reason why we will proceed. We'll do our due diligence and kind of impose due diligence on the Youngs so we get, we make sure we've done what we need to do as we consider this. And as we've got to be mindful of as beautiful and bucolic as Woodstock Hill is, and as probably most of us tend to just slide right past the yellow house and focus on the orchard and the donuts behind, that all of the buildings, all of the houses are contributing to the character defining features of a living district, something that changed over, well over 400 years of time. So those early 20th century houses that we have are representative of a particular era of our district, and are as such are important. So I'll say that. Pat, did you have your hand up?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was curious. Is that who had put the agendas in the mailboxes in the neighborhood? I found an agenda for tonight's meeting in the mailbox. I didn't know who that came from.
I have no idea.
Wasn't me.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't me.
That we don't deliver agendas. We post them to the town posts them on the website. So probably,
Yeah, I thought that was new.
nope, not us.
I thought it was you, Gail. But
No, they're.
I thought it was Gene or
May I-
Jock.
May, may,
No, not us.
may I make a comment about Sears Roebuck houses?
Yes, Tom.
I went to Oberlin College. Oberlin, the town, is full of Sears Roebuck houses. And then eventually we moved to Chevy Chase, and that's not full, but there still are an awful lot of them. There are so many. I think, one, Gail's right, having one on the hill is kind of interesting, but there are an awful lot of Sears Roebuck houses.
Thank you, Tom. All right. Does anybody have any comments that they wish to make in opposition to the application? Don't see any waving hands. All right. Then commission members, let's see, do you have any additional questions
I think
to
Jock
ask?
was just raising his hand.
Oh, Jock?
Well, I think one of the conditions should be that Eric promises that he'll have asparagus all year long.
No, I don't want to put a greenhouse in front. So.
Let's see, commission members, any additional questions at this time? I see Tim shaking his head.
No.
Stan, no. Harold, no. All right. Youngs, do you have anything additionally you would like to add?
No, I would just, I guess, thank you for giving us the time. I know I submitted this I think I was on my way to Thanksgiving when I submitted it. So it kind of got forgotten about, but this meeting has given me a bunch of information that I can kind of follow now. And I guess we'll be talking soon, or at least hopefully soon.
Yeah, and realistically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all of us on the commission will have another meeting with the circuit riders, and really hone in on and the details of make sure that we give you specifically all the information that you need to find so that we're all complying with the federal regulations. And I will get that to you. And also, and we will probably try and meet within the next 2 weeks. So by more than likely and see, we're in January now, aren't we? Yes, by somewhere towards Valentine's Day, I should probably be getting back to you with lots of detail about what your next steps are. But we've in general talked a lot about it. So you start tomorrow, it's whatever, just start working on it. I'll also try and get for you some resources so that, and to help you really kind of work your way through this, potentially even to investigating if I know what your goal is, but to see if, so that you can say you've looked into how much something's going to cost and whether there's going to be any money available for you to support that. So you can say to us, no, there isn't. Yeah. Or yes, there is. And because there's this money, that's got us thinking in a whole different way. I know what you think you want right now, but it's possible during this discovery process that you're going to be going through, something might pop up. And that's what this time period is all about, is investigating all the options. And if the only one that makes any sense is demolition, then you'll bring that to us. And you never know, there might be another option pop up.
All right, so I got my notes I've taken tonight that I can start on, but I'll just expect basically some more notes coming from you.
Much more detail. I'll make notes of the minutes and they'll be posted they'll be posted by the end of the week. So, but the town's net in on Friday, so they'll be posted probably as of Monday evening. They'll be on, and the video of this meeting also will be available then, the link to the video, so you can go back and reference this whole section of it. And call anytime. And as I said, we'll be going, and we'll get as much information as we can to guide you through this, because we all want what's best for the district. That's obvious. It's been obvious because of the work you and your family have put into the barn. You want the best for yourselves, but also for the town and the district. And I think, you are a good example of people who really appreciate being in the historic district and are willing to do all the hard work of living and working in a historic district. So we hold you out as one of those great examples of how it's done. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Then if there is any additional comments at this time? No. Then, commission members, looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
I will move that.
I'll second.
Tim? Any discussion? All in favor, just signify by raising your hand. All right, that's all in favor. Very good. All right, so at this point, as commission members, we will deliberate on this particular application and then make a determination. So Tim, Harold, and Stan, your thoughts?
I think we're
Well,
missing.
really, the only decision today is just to deny, right? So, I mean, I think the merits of what they want to do and being able to showcase the barn there, and I wouldn't have any objection down the road so far with taking it down, but today we're only voting to postpone it, right?
We need a lot more information to be able to make a decision. Yes, we would
Well,
not,
yeah.
we would not, if we made a decision now, we would be, it'd be dereliction of our duty.
Right, so I
Yeah.
mean,
We have to continue it.
We can't, because we can't continue it tonight because of the deadline. We're at the 60-day limit where an application has to be decided upon in 60 days.
Hmm.
So what we do is we deny without prejudice. And that just means, okay, we can't come, and we state the reason for our denial is that we don't have the information that we need to make a decision, a determination. And so, so the young, Eric and Doug can make a new application as of first thing tomorrow morning if they want to. There's no, and it just starts the process again. And if they're ready for a public hearing at the end of February, then we have one then. And if not, we'll have the public hearing in March. And hopefully at the end of that 60-day period, all the information that's necessary will have been gathered and we'll be able to then make a determination at that point. If not, we do the same thing all over again to push it down the road until we feel we've got all the information that we need to be able to make a decision. But tonight's, if we deny without prejudice, it has no implications for their future application, and it doesn't cost, there's no fee attached. So it just.
well, I just move that we vote tonight to deny without prejudice.
So does that make sense, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
I'll second it.
All right, so Stan has moved to deny without prejudice. Tim seconds. Is there any discussion?
No,
All in favor, signify with hands.
Aye.
All right, that's all in favor. And everyone, that's all four of us in favor. So the motion is carried. So this particular application then denied without prejudice, and we will stipulate that it was we did not have enough information to make the determination. So you can put in another application as soon as you want. You don't have to wait till you've got you've compiled all the information to do the application. If you think, if in your estimate, we will meet next again on the 4th Wednesday in February. That's our next public hearing. And then, that's our next meeting. You don't have to be done, Eric, and ready for that but that's the next opportunity for a public hearing. And so the application would need to be submitted so that I can get if you thought you'd be ready, then the application would need to be submitted by, let me see, calendar, give me a minute. So that'd be the 24th of February. The application would need to be submitted by the 12th of February so I can get it posted into the newspapers. If you thought you'd be all done and set and ready for the 24th. Otherwise, it'll be the next time we meet will be the 24th of March. Right? And just because you submit an application in February doesn't mean we have to hold the public hearing in February. You could say, let us know that you don't think you'd be ready till March. And so, we just wouldn't hold the public hearing until March. We have that latitude. And we can talk further. We'll we'll try and work on whatever the schedule that seems to work best for you. And I would expect it'll be helpful to you to know the full scope of the information that you've got to put together.
Yeah, and judging by what I've got down my notes, it looks like it's going to take some time to do it proper, and obviously we have to. So I'm not going to try to rush it either.
Yep.
But I also don't see any harm in reapplying and, for lack of better words, giving you a status update on where we are, even if it's not a
Yep.
hearing.
That's great. And you can come to in fact, that would be terrific if you came to the February meeting just under our category of project consultation, where we just discuss what's going on. And we can also organize a special Zoom meeting, pretty, given a week's notice. That's where you if you need a project what would normally happen was we'd all sit down together, but it's COVID and we can't. So it would have to be another planned Zoom meeting, but we can do something out of the regular rotation if we need to. And probably it would be a good idea if sometime between now and when the public hearing is held, if Stan is our builder. So if he had a look at the house, so he'd set up a time when he could go over, and if either Tim or Harold wanted to accompany them, that'd be fine. But Stan, with his building experience, you take him through it if that's possible, or just to point out some things to him, if that would work out for you.
Yeah, well, whatever benefits. I mean, I'm certainly going to get a couple builders to come in and give you guys a estimated appraisal of what it costs to repair. I don't know if I want to see that number, but it kind of will help the discussion. That's for sure.
Yep. Good. Excellent. Right. Where's my agenda? So that concludes the public hearing portion. And thanks all who've contributed to that. And Eric, obviously feel free to connect with me if you have any questions come up, and I'll be back in touch as soon as I can with information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, commission members, next order of business is the approval of the minutes for November 18th. Everybody have a chance to review them? And if you have, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Is there a second?
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, any discussion?
I wasn't there, so I will excuse myself from voting.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Correspondence. Over the course of the month and a half, I've had correspondence with Judy Wahlberg and Brenda Courtnoy, Jean McClellan, Brad Scheid, Mike Fiorino, and those are the two circuit riders. Let's see. Next up on our agenda, and let's see, and I basically reported to you the information that Brad Scheid and Mike Fiorino shared with me regarding demolition. And they, as I said, they would like to meet with us sometime in the next, I would think, next couple of weeks, have a Zoom meeting where we can discuss further. We can ask questions of them. I think they'll bring a couple other individuals from the Preservation Connecticut and get them involved, so that we make sure going forward we're doing what we need to do and we're providing the Youngs with the information they need for their application. So with that in mind, look at your schedules and let me know Tim, I know you've got, what, are you 5 days a week or
4.
4? So let me know if there's a day, a daytime that pops up that might be good for you during the next 2 weeks. If not, I'll check with them and see if we can do an evening meeting. But so if everybody would just email me dates and times that work for them, we'll see if we can't work for you. We'll see if we can't put something together.
Totally wide open.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Public comment. This is a pretty much any chance. Jean, I see your fingers wiggling, but I cannot hear you.
You're viewed.
I think that's better, huh?
Yeah.
I would like to make a public comment. I gather you will be discussing the 599 Route 169 application later in the meeting, and this may be my time to say what I might say today. I have just read the almost 2 hours of, or looked at the 2 hours of videotape from the November Historic District Commission meeting, and know that there are a lot of wrinkles in this particular application, and a lot of things in which the applicant has just gone ahead without prior certificate of appropriateness. I understand that and I appreciate the diligence with which the commission is looking at this situation. The porch and the spindles that are now there, I gather, are temporary. Are they plastic? They certainly look plastic. May I ask that question?
I don't know if I have not had a response. I posted a query to the applicant, to the homeowner, but I have not had a response as to the composition of the spindles.
Yeah. I do remember from the videotape, initially the applicant said he'd already ordered the spindles, and then as the discussion proceeded, he said, well, maybe he hadn't already ordered the spindles. And the spindles, if ordered, would be matte. And what I see driving down Route 169 or walking down Route 169 is glaring plastic surface. And I think that's a very prominent spot in the historic district and on the National Scenic Byway. And I appreciate the diligence of the commission, and I would just like to give you courage to continue to do the very best due diligence you can for this district there. I wish them well with their endeavors, but I don't appreciate people who go ahead and do things and don't regard the process. So that's my public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said.
Pat.
So I had a couple of public comments unrelated to what Jean just brought up. It's about the evangelical church and their parking lot. And I don't know how much it affects some of my neighbors. I believe it might affect the Stones across the street from me. But the spotlight that they have in that parking lot looks like the rising sun at night. And it lights up my house. It lights up my woods to the point that I don't need a flashlight at night to walk my dogs. I wish my camera on my phone was good enough to take a picture to see what it's like, real time. But it just doesn't pick it up. I've talked in the past to the academy about it. They point a finger at the church. I've talked to the church. They point a finger at the academy. A few months ago, I actually stopped and talked to the church during one of their meetings about many things, including the light. And they said that they would look into it and take care of it. Haven't seen anything. That light does have a timer. I don't know if it's just not working or they're just not setting it. I know that they wanted lighting at one point. It was an important thing for sporting events when players and kids are getting dropped off. So there's some lighting in the parking lot when the kids are getting dropped off. To me, that could be something that's turned on and turned off. But if I invite all of you, whether you want to take a drive or take a walk, depending on where you live, and walk down in my neck of the woods and walk by, you can't look at the light. It's that bright. Not only is it an eyesore up here and a nuisance for me, it actually shines in through some of the lights in my house. Luckily, we don't use those bedrooms yet, but will soon for the kids in a couple of years. And when you drive by, you can see a glare of light to the left. Over on Pulpit Rock Road, there is a private driveway, which there's a few houses on. At the top of the hill is Ken Ebbett, who used to be on the town's zoning commission. And if you stand next to his house, you can see that parking lot. You can see the basketball court from his house. And at night, that whole area is lit up. And I don't know what, it's a visual from the roadside. So I know that the historic district has a piece of it, but I'm not too familiar with the night sky initiative or dark sky, what that was. But I wanted to bring this forward to see if this is something we can get rectified. Also with that parking lot, and I wasn't around for this, is that I don't know when it was put in, but I believe there was something about not being able to see the vehicles from 169, and you absolutely can. And that's something for everybody, especially when you're coming southbound on 169. You can see that parking lot. I believe at one point that they were there, but from plowing or whatever, they were slowly killed. I don't know how long they've been killed, but yeah.
You're talking about the shrubbery that was put into line as a, what do I want to say?
Green screen.
As a screen, yes, at the edge, at the north edge of the parking lot.
Right.
Right. Yeah, they died, if I'm recalling correctly, the shrubbery died the first year, didn't survive the plowing or whatever was being done by the academy that first year, and was supposed to be replaced. So, and it was part of the approval.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, it was 5 years ago, perhaps. And so the approval was, part of the stipulations were that the vegetative buffer be maintained. So that is something that we are going to need to look into. It won't happen until the spring, but that's something we'll have to look into and get taken care of.
And something that I'd like to bring up regarding that property, I know it's probably nothing that the district really could be a part of, but it's enough. We have enough homeowners. Gail, you work in the district. There's enough people that live in the district here I want to make you aware of, and you may. If recently at night, if you hear cars going by, laying on the horns, or constantly honking, peeling out, it's initiating in that parking lot. I can't tell you how many times we have called the state police over the last few years for that parking lot, and it's easily over 3 dozen. There have been questionable exchanges. The amount of trash that I get up there, anything from 10 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning with the shift that I used to work. I've caught people doing drugs back there. This past August, I made a phone call to the state police for gunshots. Enough to the point that I had to tell my wife to lock the door, and I went up there to confirm there wasn't somebody laying down on the parking lot needing medical attention. I caught kids breaking into the church one day when I called the state police. The list goes on and on. But because you guys are all involved with the district or live here, I wanted to convey that. I've talked to the church about this when I stopped in. I told them that the state police suggested putting in signs for no loitering or closed at sunset, because they do have the basketball courts back there, and I'd much rather see them play basketball than do something else at night. But there's a reason that the sports fields parking lot has a gate and is closed. And there's a reason that the basketball court at Roseland Park, the gate is closed, because it's a noticeable place where people hang out and they don't want them there at night. And for whatever reason, and I've talked to people that grew up in the town, because I did not grow up here, that for whatever reason, they started hanging out there when they were in high school, and it's continued on, because these aren't just kids. These are people in their 30s, 40s. I caught, let's say, a couple in a midnight rendezvous back there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were in their 40s and 50s. I don't know why that's an attractive spot. And a lot of these people aren't locals. Anybody from Eastford to Putnam to Webster, Massachusetts plates all the time, which is allude to some questionable or illegal activity. I went up there one time coming home from work in uniform, and I told people to stop, and they took off from me. And excuse me for a minute. And when the state police showed up and I gave them the plate number, they said, yeah, they've taken off from them before. I didn't move to Woodstock to live in this kind of neighborhood where I have to deal with that. Enough to the point that if we knew about this, we wouldn't have bought this house. I have no issue living in the historic district. Those of you that know me know I'm very into history, have no problems with the parameters of living in a historic district, but I don't think we should put up with this. And I know it's nothing that you guys can really enforce or anything, but it's a good, venue for me to communicate to you guys.
Have you spoken to the town selectmen?
I'm not. I was hoping that I could just speak to the church and them to take me seriously enough. I mean, excuse me. Somebody should be in bed. Go. No. Everybody say goodnight to Aurora. Aurora, go.
Night, Aurora.
Night, Aurora.
Good night, Aurora.
She hears voices. She wants to see people. Say goodnight.
Good night,
Okay,
Aurora.
Okay, I'll snuggle with you in a minute. Sorry about that. I was hoping that being good neighbors, I could, talk to them. We could have a good communication. And, I'm the one that told them about what was going on with Rusty Relic, because they didn't even realize that, there's a proposition of a big parking lot going next to them. I've told people to take a hike that were using their dumpster at 3 a.m. I have not talked to the town. I will do so now. I'll probably send out an email to some of the neighbors, including the Stones across the road, Gene and Jock, that are very close. If anybody else is interested in staying in the loop on it, of communications between us and them, the more support I get on this, I'm the closest to it because I got that parking lot right out behind me. It'd be appreciated.
It's serious, and I think it's even something that, in terms of maintaining integrity of the historic district, we at least should have comment on. A couple of questions. On an average, how many people are gathering anyway to?
So one of the most recent times was just last week that I had to call the Stadies, because even though I'm a federal officer, I have no jurisdiction here. So anything that I possibly say to them or whatever is going overboard. So I've talked to them, I've told them to take a hike, but it keeps on happening. So that's not working. So I try to call the state police and get them to come up here. By the time they're up here, sometimes they're not around. One statey did come out the beginning of last week, and the car came in, saw the trooper because I was out there talking to him, and the car tore off down Child Hill Road going like 75, and the trooper went after him. I haven't heard what happened from that. Sometimes it's just a couple, sometimes it's 20. It's ridiculous. Last week there was 2 vehicles that stayed in the parking lot for like probably a little over an hour, and in that hour time frame, over a dozen other vehicles stopped, was over by them for 5 minutes or less, and then took off individually. So it's questionable activity of what's going on. I found narcotics paraphernalia on the property line, whether it's from school kids or this or both. There have been times when I was out there with my dogs. This was a couple of years ago because I used to work second shift. That I'd walk the dogs. My dogs know when people are supposed to be back there, and at night they're barking inside the house because of people making a ruckus out there. And I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old waking up in the middle of the night. I don't need that. I believe many of you are parents, and I don't think that you would want that when you had young kids either. But when I've walked the dogs back there, they'll start barking at them. And I had a bunch of guys started chucking beer bottles into my woods, smashing on the trees. We did have one instance where they came on the property and let some of my livestock loose. Years ago, you'll remember when they somebody put a severed cow's head on the basketball court. That was an instance where my dogs were going nuts in the middle of the night, and I went outside to investigate, and they had already peeled off. It didn't stop with the severed cow's head, pretty much. It just continues.
And hours of the day and the night that this occurs?
Most often, like what time is it now? If you guys want to take a drive, there's probably a few back there right now. It could be anywhere from 8:30 to the latest I found them there is 4 o'clock in the morning when I used to work that shift.
Well,
Yes,
it
Jack.
sounds like it should be brought up with the selectmen for sure.
Absolutely. Yes, Jack.
A couple of questions. Gating. It would be hard to have a gate that is just for the parking lot, but it would be possible to have 2 gates on the driveways, for which the church would have the ability to open when needed, but otherwise closed. And I think that might be worth pursuing.
I agree. And like what you said, what I was saying before, the athletic fields are gated. Roseland Cottage is gated. These are, well, Roseland Cottage is.
Not Roseland Park.
Roseland Park is gated. I mentioned that to them and they roll their eyes at me. One thing that my wife brings up is that we had a peaceful protest on the town green for Black Lives Matter. During that peaceful protest, they had a dozen people at the church blocking the parking lot and staying there just in case things were to get rowdy. So they care about it for their own purposes, but when it affects their neighbors, I don't mean to show my frustrations, but obviously I'm frustrated. And I think that an appropriate gate would be nice. I don't know. Recently, the Rusty Relic, and I don't know if it was something that they went through the processes for, they put gates up at their driveway and parking lot. And by Gail's expressions, no, they did not. They're tasteful, if that helps at all. But they go through the process, you know, and I think they should have gates. They could put in even a more modern one, because I don't see them putting in a gate that you got to throw a chain around and a padlock. But I see something where someone can be responsible for opening them when they need to be open and closing them at night. You know, I don't think it's a big deal.
Gina and Jack, you've been in, you're two of the people, I guess Harold and that would be someone else who've been here for a long, long time. How does we don't have a sheriff, a town police department. We don't really even have public safety officers. So what kind of procedures are there?
Well, when I was a boy, the minister would go out and read the book of according to St. Matthew, and it was all taken care of. Harold, is that what happened for you?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You're not, I'm teasing, but I would be really, really, well, I'll try to use a nice word, upset going through that. That kind of thing wears on you over and over again. And I would be really upset, and I think something has to be done. Could I ask about cameras?
So I did ask about that, and the school said that the church was going to install cameras at the entrance and or exit of the facility, of the parking lot. And it never happened. Then I asked the church about it, and they said, oh, the school's going to do that. It's this constant, playing one against the other. And I'm just like, enough. It's gotten to the point that I'm ready to spend the money on a solar Wi-Fi camera to put it back there. But this shouldn't be on me either. Every time the state police come up here, they're asking for license plates, and it's hard enough to get back there. And I'm done with confrontation. Especially when it gets to the point this past summer, I'm sorry, when there's gunshots, enough's enough. And yeah.
Are cameras capable of picking up license plate numbers?
They are, depending on angle and lighting. Most license plates, like if the car's running, you have lights that illuminate or shine onto the license plate. And also depending where they're parked and where the camera is and everything else. It really depends.
Well, I was going to say, Jock and Jean, if something like, you've got more experience dealing with, I think, the town government, but if the neighborhood and the district wrote a letter of, a letter of concern with and as many people as we can make aware of it and signatures on it and submitted it to the selectmen, would that force action?
I think it would bolster things for Pat. Pat, I just want you to know, for my part, I would be happy to support you in any way we can. Short of my going up there in the middle of the night as a white-haired old lady.
She's scary.
You're more threatening than I am.
Well, we'll have a discussion. But I just, if you think a letter, I would think the first thing might be to talk to the selectmen. I don't know, and see where that goes. Or maybe it's better to have a letter from the neighborhood to take with you. And I think you would get good support on that, Pat.
And it might make sense to have copies of that letter sent to the Board of Trustees of the Academy and to the church somehow.
Yeah, the church tends to point fingers at the kids for a lot of issues happening back there. And the school has pointed fingers saying it's the church's responsibility. And the headmaster has told me, you can't prove it's my kids. There are some situations where I've caught them and I'm like, do you go to the Woodstock Academy? And they say yes. Were they previous graduates? This, that. When I first bought the house, I had someone doing the painting. And the painter called me the first day on the job and said that the kids from the academy, on their lunch break, they're allowed to go home. So you have the traffic of them walking over. And he called me and said, there's kids smoking weed in your woods right now. Because Dave Hazelton was here and he wasn't extremely active in going up into those woods. And, so they did it for years. They're not, as far as I'm concerned, coming on the property much anymore. But you should see the amount of trash that yearly we pick up from that parking lot too. And if I live next to any one of you, and whether it was me or someone on my property littering or doing any of these things, none of you would be happy.
I don't see how the church can pass responsibility back to the academy if the church owns the property. It's
They
their
do own the
problem.
property. The academy rents it.
Oh, they
And-
rent it.
It was the academy that was responsible for the plantings to protect the parking, because the parking was put in for the academy. It was a fairly contentious situation with the historic district at the time that it occurred. And there were some maneuverings that went on, but it was at that point the academy's responsibility for plantings. I don't know about lighting, and I don't know about the possibility of a surveillance camera. But I think going to the head of the Board of Trustees at Woodstock Academy is a good move.
I wonder if
And-
it might be reasonable to do that first, because the academy, you know, the implication potentially, let's just say, they say you can't prove it's our kids, but the implication is going to be that it at least involves a little bit some academy students. And it would be hard to prove. You'd have to prove it didn't. People would jump to the conclusion. So it's a matter of reputation, and they're renting the parking
I
lot.
think they need to.
I'm just trying to think of making sure that the steps are followed to get to the right resolution. That if you try the church one more time, if the headmaster is obdurate, then go to the Board of Trustees, because it's their reputation. And if you get no resolution, then, you know, the implication is the next step is it's going to escalate up to the selectmen, and already the state police have been involved, and there's been gunfire. It's the danger to students.
I think
Pat, do
the
you
hard
know-
part for the school to take responsibility is for the time of day that a lot of this stuff is happening at. I had talked to the school when we had some major issues of when school let out and everybody racing out of there, racing down the road, or what they were doing back there right after school. That I understand of being out of the school, but when you're talking about in the middle of the night, the church is the owner and it's their responsibility. If I rent a house and I do something to my neighbor's property, or if there's something happening from where I am to that neighbor's property, yeah, something might come down on me, but it's going to come down on the landlord as well.
Maybe the church and the academy need to share the cost of a night watchman and hire somebody.
Maybe.
Well, my thought originally, because I spoke to them and there was no action, was to send an email, CC as many people as I can, and send an email to the church, but to have the headmaster or the Board of Trustees of the academy CC'd on that email, so they're within the loop in the beginning, and see what action's taken. You bring up, going to the town, and I was hoping that wouldn't be necessary. But I mean, I've got little kids. I've got a career. I don't need this. I would have stayed in Putnam where we lived for 2 miserable years if I wanted to deal with this stuff.
Pat, do you know Bill Rowinski at the Covenant Church? He is the person who was their sort of liaison for the 599 hearing.
What was his name?
Bill Rowinski, Rewinski.
I don't think so.
He's a very decent guy who's on the Inland Wetlands Commission, civic-minded. If that's his function, he might be a good contact. They have some kind of, I don't understand the structure of things there.
They have like a council of elders is what they call it.
Yeah, and then they have committees. I just give you Bill's name. as somebody who has been involved in similar issues, okay? And a good contact, perhaps.
Can I interject here?
Yes,
I
Dan.
sympathize with everything that's going on here, but it's kind of gotten astray and we're at 2 hours.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I like, and
Yeah,
I hate to
good
do
point.
this to you, Patrick, but can we move
No,
on?
I understand. It was just a very good venue for me to communicate with you guys, get some feedback on it.
No, I don't blame you. I just would like to move
And,
things
and
along.
I really thank, and I thank you, Pat, for bringing it to our attention since it impacts the district at large. And that we will, so keep us apprised. And if I would, gentlemen, if they need the district's support for a letter or anything, would we support that?
Oh, definitely,
Sure.
especially with the screening for the parking lot.
All right, well, the screening, we will definitely follow up on with the parking lot. And
Okay.
Jean, regarding the light, do you know when that light was, I'm gonna have, or approximately when that parking, I was trying to remember when the parking lot was installed and I don't, were you still on you were no longer on the district?
I was involved with the expansion of the parking. But I don't remember the history of the lights. It just sort of one day I realized there are lights there. I think that was sort of toward the end of my tenure. But I did want to just say about light. I think light in the historic district is an issue. We're getting more and more light and more glaring light. And that certainly is an historic district issue.
It is, so that's what makes me want to go back and go back and find out what the details of the approval were. And if there were any stipulations on the light, they should have had to comply with the Dark Skies Initiative. So if you could vector me into a date, a year, then I can try and dig through the minutes and find out whether it's 2005 or maybe 2000, something. Give me kind of narrow my window down so I don't have to do the entire history of the commission.
Yeah, I will try. I'm not sure that it's up here and I'm not sure that I have records anymore.
Maybe just when you think you last served on the district.
I'll try to find that out.
Okay,
I don't have it in my head.
that's fine. I just did, if sometime in the next couple weeks it pops, you can figure out when you were sort of a year you were sort of last serving, and I can go back and find it, but it would help me to narrow in on what I'm looking for. All right, thank you.
I appreciate everybody's feedback and support, whether it's from the lighting or all the other issues. It's really, if I could, I almost want to put up one of those wood sound and visual barriers you see alongside the highway. But you wouldn't think you need to have to do that with the church, but so I appreciate you guys.
Patrick. I don't mean to put you off.
No, yeah. All right, is that the end of public comment? All right, no project I shouldn't assume. Anybody have any project consultations?
Not me.
I have a question regarding
Yes.
a project that I want to do on the property, if that's the appropriate time to ask.
Yes, it is.
It's regarding signage. As many of you are aware, we have a little homestead operation, and we've never posted a sign with the title of our homestead, and I've kept from doing it pretty much because I want to do it right. I was curious of the requirements of signage in the district.
So we have to comply with the town. There's town sign ordinance, but the district tries to minimize signage and keep it simple.
Okay.
So the best thing to do would be to come up with a design and just do a casual, float it past us casually.
Okay.
All right, Old business, 599 Route 169. Jean has spoken about one of the issues with them being that they have, they've put up what I understand to be a temporary, I had understood to be temporary porch railings and ramp railings pending. They're coming before us with the design specifications for what would be the permanent, but what do I want to say? But removable railing and porch solution and ramp solution. And I've emailed them a couple of times, tried to get in touch with them by phone and not had any success to discuss that. But they were noticed. I sent them an email saying that they needed to come before us with that issue. They've also installed the gate on 169. It's a good looking gate, but that needs to be approved. So they've been told they need to bring that, put an application in for that. And then they've installed the gate unexpectedly on Child Hill Road. And they need to come before us for that. And finally, there are big signs now hanging on the barn. And part of our approval included the stipulation that there not be merchandise and signs like that on the barns. So if they have so they were told, the email asked them to take them down and said that if they intended to wanted to put those up, that they would have to come before us for that. And then the last thing that they needed to consider was their own sign, that the only one that was approved was the one that came from the South Woodstock location, and that they needed to come before us with the specifics of how they're going to install that, but that any secondary sign had not been approved. But I don't think they're here. I don't see an indication that they are. So all I can do is continue to pursue communication with them.
Gail, did you talk to the lawyer about possibly getting them to reverse some of the things that they've done? I thought that was.
I did.
Going to be discussed.
I did discuss it with him.
Yep.
It would have to be supported by the town.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recall now. It's within our rights to do that, to anything that's been installed, and they know that. We've told them that from the beginning. If he got ahead of himself, then we can request that he remove. And if they take something down, we can request that they put it back if we don't approve of the removal. They know that, they're reminded of that in every time they've come before us. We can do that. But then if there is pushback, if the homeowner has legal pushback, then it's a matter of whether or not our position is supported.
Well, it just seems from the ramp and the decking and the railings, and he hasn't gotten any pushback. And so now it seems like anything goes at that property.
And it's made more complicated by the fact that because of COVID, we can't have person-to-person, face-to-face meetings.
Right.
And that we can't go there in person and really speak with him about this. Doing this over Zoom and by emails is not helping. And I don't think they really get it.
Has it been put in writing that
Okay.
the commission sees them as going ahead without permission in many ways? I know you were forceful in the meeting, but has that been?
The last email that I sent them explained that they had done that gate and the ramping and the railing had been completed without approval, and that they needed to come before us to get approval. Our next step most likely is to be more forceful and say it is imperative that they submit an application for those items, and to bring specifications, photographs, material information, bring everything with them when they come for their public hearing.
Should they be alerted that the commission, that the fact that these things exist doesn't mean they can be sanctioned?
That is a point that will be reinforced. They know that just because they've done it doesn't mean it's all right. But it will not hurt to reinforce it.
One more, and I may be out of turn, tell me if I am, but if, when you talk about the town, I'm assuming that's the Board of Selectmen. Is that
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for anytime that my understanding was that if a commission needs to use the town attorney, then that request has to go through the first selectman first. Jack.
Do you have any sense of whether the Board of Selectmen understand that if there is no enforcement, the commission essentially is meaningless?
I don't have any information on that.
It needs to be said, because at some point, if one place is violating a whole string of things, then pretty soon something else is going to happen, and the commission loses authority. So there's a principle involved here.
You're right.
Might help if Jack and Jean talk to the selectmen directly and express their displeasure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I thought I would do that, Stan. That's why I was asking, because I think they need to know that the community is not wild about what's going on,
Right.
as well, not just the commission.
Harold or Tim, any thoughts?
No,
Yeah. The enforcement officer is the building inspector, right? Why
Right.
don't we go through him or her or whoever it is right now?
And he is willing to be involved. I had hoped that we would be able to discuss with the homeowner and work it out without escalating it to a more confrontational situation. But you're right, we do have the building official who can can take action. So I will copy you with the first email that I sent, the most recent email that I sent, and then look for your input for a second one to send to them since they did not appear tonight. And then we will move forward with this. Yes, Jack.
It seems to me there's such a clear comparison, contrast tonight between, on the one hand, one applicant simply thumbing his nose at the commission and another applicant thinking very carefully about what is good for the town.
I also think the comparison, the contrast is one applicant who, though they have something they want to do and I'm sure they would like to get it done, is willing to be patient and take the time to do it right. And another applicant, another property owner who also a business that has the pressures of business and wants to get things done and is not willing to be patient and follow the rules and procedures. And that's the big contrast. I think that they are operating with what they feel are good intentions. I think that from every conversation that we've ever had with them, they always reinforce how much they understand everything, all things historic, and they really, everything they're doing, they feel enhances the historic district. And I think that one of our big challenges has been helping them to understand really what this historic district, what its character defining features are and what we're trying to protect. Patrick.
I had a question regarding the items hanging on the barn. Is there a difference in whether those, I know they weren't supposed to put items out there for sale. Is there a difference if those items are just put there for decoration?
Either way, they were different. It had nothing to do with merchandise. We didn't stipulate merchandise. We stipulated decoration, whatever. It was left open as to the purpose of those items. They just couldn't be there. Does that make
We
sense?
wanted the barn to still look like a barn.
The barn was supposed, yeah, and there are Pennsylvania barns that have hex signs and things on them, but let me see. I happen to have it because I expected them to be here. Stipulations. There will be no visible display of anything related to the retail business on the property with the exception of the approved sign. I mean, they could argue that that golf sign is going to be a decoration and that's there, but it's a sign that's added to the building. And if it's going to be there more than just for a few weeks, then it needs approval. It's an installation on the side of the house, just like anybody putting up dabbing something onto the side of their house, it would require approval.
You mean I'm not supposed to leave Christmas lights on my house all year long?
The Christmas lights are pretty innocuous. However, if you leave they've got, for example, big red bells hanging or balls hanging, those got to come down. So the red chairs hanging in the tree are going to need an application if they stay up much longer.
It would be nice if you could get the full story about those chairs. I had somebody unknown to us stop by yesterday, knock on our door and ask what the red chairs were for. We had to say they're not ours.
It's a sobriety test.
Yeah.
You have to sit down in them.
So
Actually, the what Pat said about, and that led to the somewhat discussion of the Dark Skies Initiative is also relevant. I mean, he has 3 searchlights going upwards on those chairs and into the sky.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we'll have to address that
Yeah.
soon. All right, commission members, back to, and any other instructions that action beyond just a second contacting them to appear before us for the end of February?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Other old business, new member suggestions. We've had one inquiry. It's a resident of the district. It's Karen Ola, who's indicated interest in becoming a member. Her mother died yesterday, I believe, and so she's not able to come and be with us tonight. So I've directed her to watch some of the videos of recent meetings, and then when she's ready to, I'll talk with her, and she can join us for the February meeting, and then we can make a decision at that point. And then there's another prospective member, but a potential member. You wish to out yourself? So,
Yeah, I'll out myself. I haven't put in the application yet with the town. Calm down, Jacques. But I will be putting it in. I have wanted to. I've talked to Jean and Jacques about it over the years. I've talked to Gail about it over the years. Very into history and very into my community. I haven't, because of my work schedule. I was working nights, didn't have weekends off, so on and so forth. That all changed. So I will be submitting that with the town. I still have to look online to see if I can just do it online.
so we've got 2 prospective members, finally.
Good.
Yes, and I'll remind everybody who's not a commission member right now that we are still looking for more. I think we have 1 resignation in the works, so that will happen in June, and another sort of hanging there, but wishing he could resign. So we definitely will. If anybody, just spread the
Who are
word.
those?
Pardon me?
Who are those?
I am one.
Tim has
I am
submitted
Jim.
his resignation, so he'll only be serving until June. And Harold has indicated that he would like to step off the commission, but we have inveigled and cajoled him to remain on, at least for the time being. But as soon as I have a feeling that as soon as if he feels that we are sufficiently staffed, he will once again attempt to abandon us.
It'd be kind of fitting, Harold, seeing how I also have, if I took your seat on the commission, because I also have your old fire coat from the fire department.
Wow.
But anyway, we are still looking for additional members. So if
Gail, as I understand it, the Board of Selectmen has already nominated Karen to take my place.
she hasn't, they have, well, they received, she put in her application to them, and Brenda, that was my communication with Brenda, and Brenda wanted to know when she could put it on the agenda for the selectmen. And I said that we would be meeting tonight and meeting with Karen and making a decision. So tomorrow I've got to email Brenda to say we weren't able to because of the death of her mother, and to please hold the decision making until March, until we've had a chance to vote on, because realistically they can appoint, but we're supposed to vote and approve first before they appoint. And we went through this once before and pointed it out, and they've forgotten evidently again. But the way it's supposed to work is we approve and then they appoint. So
Okay.
that's the way that's going to work. Does anybody have any other old business to cover?
Not I.
No,
New business. The only new business I have is the 2021 calendar. If it works for everybody, we'll continue to meet on the fourth Wednesday of the month, except for November. That's the night before Thanksgiving. So that will be a to be determined. We'll figure that out as we get towards November when we should meet, or if we should meet that month. And does 7 o'clock continue to work best for everybody? Figure that gives
Yeah.
everyone a chance to clear
Sure.
debt. All right. So we'll do 7 p.m. Wednesdays, and it's flexible. So if at any time it doesn't work out, we can always shift an individual meeting. Does anybody have any additional new business?
No.
Then thank you all for participating and doing your hard work and being good citizens of the district. We also appreciate all of you who are residents there. And oh, one last thing. One of the things we need to do every year, and in time of COVID we couldn't, was to do some kind of information session activity. And since we actually have district residents there right here, then put your thinking caps on, please, and see if you can come up with some suggestions of an activity that maybe toward the fall, if it's safe to do so. And if not, it'll be a Zoom meeting something we could do that would be informational and also engage more than just what happens in the past is the usual 2 or 3 people and nobody else is interested. Something for some informational for the district. So some format, some way to do it that might be successful for once. We'd appreciate your input. And barring that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
so move.
All right,
Second.
Harold.
Harold. Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Stan. Without discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
I
all.
did list my